Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive. You mentioned wanting to explore ways to better support women's mental health, and we've got some super interesting stuff to look at today. I'm excited to dig into this book excerpt, Cultivating Support, a Key to Women's Mental Health. We've also got some cool snippets from Book Trove Express to think about.
One thing that really struck me about cultivating support is how it goes beyond just you know, basic social interaction. It's more about having people in your life who really get the specific challenges you face as a woman,
Hmm.
and they can offer the right kind of help. That's what they call active support, and the book argues that it's really crucial for your overall well-being.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people assume that just having a ton of friends automatically means you have great support, but this book seems to be saying that it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah, totally. It goes deep into the unique pressures that women face, not in a complaining way, but just acknowledging that societal expectations and all the different roles women juggle can take a real toll, and that the world isn't always set up to make it easy.
Makes sense. And I bet that's where the idea of self-care comes in. I saw that mentioned a lot in the excerpt.
Definitely. But it goes beyond just the typical self-care stuff. Like it emphasizes self-care as a way to protect yourself,
Right.
especially when you're facing all those pressures.
So it's not just bubble baths and face masks.
Right. It's more about recognizing your own limits and being clear with others about what you can and can't handle. Setting boundaries, basically.
That's so important. I feel like women are often made to feel guilty for setting boundaries.
Totally. And the book pushes back against that. It really reframes those boundaries as essential for mental and emotional well-being. Like, it's empowering women to put themselves first.
I like that.
Yeah.
Empowering. You mentioned some examples in the book that really illustrate this. What were some that stuck out to you?
Well, one was about the pressure women feel to be the perfect mother and partner and professional all at the same time. And the book describes how unrealistic that is and how it leads to women feeling overwhelmed and like they're not good enough.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like society expects women to just effortlessly excel at everything.
Exactly. And the book actually offers strategies to deal with that pressure.
Hmm.
One that I thought was cool was about finding things you genuinely enjoy doing and then actually scheduling them into your week, no matter how busy things get.
It's true, though. Making time for yourself is usually the first thing to go when you're stressed. The book also mentioned therapy. What did it have to say about different therapeutic approaches?
It talks about a bunch of different approaches, like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT,
Mm.
and mindfulness and trauma-informed therapy. It explains how these techniques can help. Like with CBT, it explains how you can help you change negative thought patterns.
That's good because it means there are options, that women can find what works best for them. I also noticed that the book touches on some less conventional topics, like nutrition. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so it dives into the connection between what you eat and how you feel. Like it goes way beyond eat your vegetables. It gets into how specific nutrients can actually impact your brain and your mood.
That gut-brain connection is so fascinating. It's amazing how much our diet can affect our mental state.
Right. The book even talks about studies connecting gut health to anxiety and depression.
Wow, that's wild. So we've got therapy, nutrition. What about exercise? How does that fit in?
It talks about the science behind why exercise is good for you. It explains how physical activity releases endorphins and how those act as natural mood boosters.
I totally get that. Even going for a walk can make a huge difference in my mood. When
Okay.
when I'm exercising regularly, I'm better at handling stress.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that any movement is good. It doesn't have to be super intense workouts. Even things like yoga or walking can make a big difference.
This is already giving me a lot to think about. Maybe we can switch gears for a second and look at what Book Trove Express brings to the table. It seems like they have an interesting angle on how we access and engage with information about mental health.
Right? Book Trove Express is all about making knowledge and inspiration easy to understand and fun to engage with. They offer things like summaries of books
Hmm,
and audiobooks and even podcasts, all designed to make learning enjoyable.
I love that. Learning about mental health shouldn't feel like a chore.
Yeah, their tagline is, "Unlock the power of words." And that really sums up what they're about. They believe that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to understanding and managing your mental well-being.
And they've got such a variety of content, so there's something for everyone.
Yeah, they're on all sorts of platforms too, YouTube, Spotify, Ko-Fi, and their own website. It seems like they're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to learn.
It sounds like a great complement to the Cultivating Support book. Like the book gives you the in-depth knowledge, and then Bookshop Express gives you a way to process it all.
For sure. And making it enjoyable is a huge part of it. When we're having fun, we're more likely to pay attention and remember what we've learned.
So true. We've covered the main message about support and talked about self-care and therapy and even the impact of what we eat and how much we move our bodies. But the book goes even deeper than that, right? It looks at specific challenges women face in different areas of their lives.
Yep. There are whole chapters on things like the challenges of motherhood and relationships, and even the impact of living in a digital age. And it looks at the societal pressures that contribute to all of that.
It sounds like there's a lot more to uncover. Let's jump into those specific areas and see what other insights we can find.
Okay, so let's look at how cultivating support gets into the specific challenges women face. Motherhood is a big one. There's so much pressure on moms these days.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine the expectations are
It's
intense.
like this idea of the perfect mom. The book really nails it. It talks about how isolated a lot of mothers feel, especially in those first few months after having a baby, when everything's so new.
So it's not just about feeling isolated, but actually like doing something about it.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes how important it is to reach out for help when you need it, not just to friends and family, but also to professionals like therapists or support groups. It even specifically talks about postpartum depression.
That's so important because there's still so much stigma around postpartum depression.
The book tackles that head on. It's like postpartum depression is a real medical condition, and it needs to be treated that way, not judged.
Right. It's about creating a space where women feel comfortable asking for help without worrying about what other people will think. That open communication thing, the book talks about that in the context of relationships too.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. Motherhood is a big focus. But the book also spends a lot of time on how all kinds of relationships affect our mental health. Not just romantic relationships, but family and friends too. Even the feeling community you get from belonging to a group.
I can see that. Sometimes you need to vent to your friends about family stuff, or your family is there for you in ways your partner just doesn't get.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Different relationships meet different needs and provide different kinds of support. But relationships can also be stressful. So the book talks about finding that balance, nurturing the good parts of relationships while setting boundaries to protect yourself.
Boundaries. That seems to be a big theme in this book.
It pops up a lot. The book is all about clear communication and setting those boundaries
Yeah.
to protect your energy, whether it's with family or friends or your partner. It even gives you tips on how to actually have those conversations,
Yeah.
which can be tough.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Speaking of juggling different roles and expectations, the book talks about managing multiple roles too,
Right, yeah.
which is something I think a lot of women struggle with. It's like you're trying to be a good employee and a good partner and a good parent and a good friend and still take care of yourself.
It's a lot. And the book really dives into that. It looks at what happens when you try to be everything to everyone. And it offers strategies for dealing with all those demands. It also says it's okay to ask for help and to delegate tasks. It's like
Yeah.
women don't have to do it all themselves.
Which is such a huge thing. So many women feel like they have to do it all, and it's exhausting.
And it leads to burnout, for sure. The book is all about challenging that mindset, encouraging women to ask for support from partners and family and friends, and even colleagues. It also talks about how to prioritize tasks and how to say no to things that drain your energy.
It's true, though. Learning to say no is so important, especially these days when everyone's so busy. The book seems to be really good at empowering women to take charge.
Yeah, it's about making choices that protect your well-being. And that empowerment extends to how the book talks about technology, too.
Oh, yeah. Technology, that's a big one. It's so weird. We're more connected than ever, but there's also this epidemic of loneliness.
The book talks about how being constantly connected can actually increase stress and mess with your sleep. And then there's the whole comparison thing. Everyone's presenting this perfect image of themselves online.
And it's so easy to start comparing yourself and feeling bad.
Totally. The book gives strategies for managing your relationship with technology, like setting boundaries around your tech use, taking breaks, and being mindful of what you're consuming online.
So it's not about, like, getting rid of technology completely, just using it in a healthier way.
Exactly. And the book says, if you're really struggling, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are therapists who specialize in tech addiction and all that.
That's good to know. It seems like the book is saying, whatever you're struggling with, you don't have to go through it alone.
And it goes beyond individual stuff, too. It looks at how society as a whole contributes to these challenges. There's a whole chapter on societal pressures, like all those expectations around beauty and success.
Ugh, it's exhausting trying to keep up with all of that.
The book gets that. It talks about how these pressures make women feel inadequate and anxious. and it encourages women to challenge those norms.
So it's not about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing that these are bigger issues that need to be addressed. Does the book say anything about what we can actually do about it?
Yeah. It talks about becoming advocates for your own mental health and supporting policies that actually prioritize well-being. It's like,
Hmm.
if we work together, we can make real changes.
That's pretty inspiring. Okay, let's bring Book Trove Express back into the conversation. They seem to be on the same page as this book when it comes to making knowledge accessible.
Yeah, they're all about those bite-sized pieces of information, which could be really helpful for anyone who wants to learn more about these issues. And they offer so many different formats, so you can find what works for you.
And they're fun, which is so important.
Right, learning shouldn't feel like a chore.
So we've got this book that gives us all the information, and then Book Trove Express helps us put it all together. It's a good combo.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered motherhood and relationships and the impact of technology and all the pressure society puts on women. What do you think is the most important takeaway from all of this?
It's interesting how the book connects all these different challenges. It's like
Yeah.
pressures of motherhood can affect your relationships, and then the digital age makes those societal pressures even worse. It's all connected.
Totally. And understanding those connections helps us find better solutions.
It's about getting to the root of the problem, not just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Exactly. And the book is actually pretty hopeful. It's saying that we can create a world where women's mental health is valued and supported if we support each other and work together.
I like that. There's one more thing we need to talk about from Cultivating Support. Resilience. It's a big part of the book, too.
Right. You got it. It goes beyond just coping with challenges. It's about using those challenges to become stronger. Okay, so we're talking about resilience. And this book, Cultivating Support, it doesn't just focus on getting through tough times. It's more about using those experiences to grow and become stronger.
I love that. It's like turning those setbacks into opportunities.
Right? It talks about developing a growth mindset where you see challenges as chances to learn new things, not as something that's going to break you.
That makes sense. But does the book give you any actual strategies for building that resilience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It gets into things like practicing positive self-talk and developing better problem-solving skills. And it reminds you to reach out for support when you need it. It also talks about using creativity as a form of therapy, like expressing your emotions through art or music or writing.
I like that. It's like you're taking those tough emotions and turning them into something positive.
Exactly. The book also talks about how important it is to hear stories from other women who've gone through similar challenges. Those stories can be so inspiring.
It's true. When you hear someone else's story and you're like, wow, they got through that, maybe I can too, it gives you hope.
Totally. And that's where Book Trove Express can be so helpful. They offer all these different ways to connect with those stories through book summaries and audiobooks and podcasts.
It's like they're creating this whole community of support where women can feel connected and understood.
And they make it so easy to access those stories. You can fit them into your everyday life. It's a good reminder that you're not alone in this.
So we've talked about a lot today, but if we had to boil it all down, what would you say is the most important thing to remember about building that support system?
I think it's that. Building a support system is something you do over time. It's not a one-time thing. You have to keep nurturing those relationships.
And you have to put yourself out there. Be open about what you need.
Yeah. The book talks about being assertive, about clearly communicating your needs. And don't be afraid to reach out to different people, friends, family, therapists, support groups, online communities. Different people can offer different kinds of support.
It's about having options so you can get the support you need when you need it.
And remember, support goes both ways. Be there for other women too. Listen, offer a shoulder to cry on. Help out in practical ways. It creates this amazing cycle of support.
I love that. Okay. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
That building a support system is essential. It's not a luxury. It's crucial for your mental well-being. And it's something you have the power to create.
So well said. This has been such a great conversation. I feel like we've really uncovered some valuable insights from these sources.
Me too.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to our listener, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into women's mental health. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's support out there, and you have the power to create positive change in your life and in the world. Keep learning, keep connecting, and keep taking care of yourselves.